Welcome back to the program, everybody. Welcome back to another show. Welcome back to another episode. Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening to all of my viewers, listeners, and Soul Tribe family. The name of this program is called It's a Conspiracy, But It Ain't No Theory. It's a Conspiracy, But It Ain't No Theory is a nonprofit social service agency suicide prevention campaign, servicing the needs of families and foster children at risk. Lending my voice to help raise awareness by soft publishing a book trilogy called Lucy's Lair. Lucy's Lair is a graphic novel based on true events following my life as a freelance artist. This program is intended to help encourage, heal, and empower survivors of cancel culture and rape culture, providing free information and evidence regarding child abuse, sexual assault, domestic violence, electronic harassment, gang stalking, conspiracy, and true organized crimes against humanity. Your company can help by providing funds in a grant or by donating goods and services as I continue delivering this information to the public and advocating for foster children in need. Thank you in advance for all of your support. On today's episode, I'm going to be discussing gang stalking, hypersimulation theory, psychological operations, plus surviving the New World disorder per usual, surviving manufactured chaos, surviving manufactured, quote, karma, surviving white genocide, and surviving the electronic targeting holocaust, or the Cyber Pearl Harbor. My name is Adrienne Alese. I am the author and creator of a book trilogy called Lucy's Lair, Part 1, 2, and now 3. Lucy's Lair is a book trilogy reflecting my life as a survivor of rape culture, child sex trafficking, and psychological gas chambers. On this program, I advocate for women's rights, basic human rights, and the rights of those disabled. I also advocate on behalf of the foster children in the CPS system, orphans, single mothers, foster mothers, and those less fortunate. Targeted individuals or trafficked victims are predominantly women. 65 to 70% of targeted individuals or trafficked victims are white American women or those who identify as such. So if you see a male talking about gang stalking, according to the data and facts, it's either spam, misinformation, or disinformation. As I just mentioned, 65 to 70% of targets or trafficked victims are white American women or those who identify as such. So it is very unlikely, highly unlikely, for any male of any color to be targeted. It's not impossible. Highly unlikely is what I said. This makes gang stalking an illegal operation or hate crime that is sexually and politically motivated towards American women and their children. This program is a dedication to the targeted individual community. The objective of the opposition, or the Counterintelligence Program 2.0, is to subvert all of the target's potentiality. Hear me clearly now. To terminate and to punish all supporters and sympathizers, to round down the target's output and audience, to marginalize the target, to eliminate connections and networking ability amongst many, 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 many other horrendous crimes. Gang stalking is a covert harassment and slow kill torture program targeting both social justice activists and other Americans in other states. This occult aggression program is based on a satanic ritual abusive practice, organized hate crimes, collective covert, human trafficking, cancel culture, conspiracy culture, rape culture, organized group stalking, electronic harassments, and murder. I became aware of my targeting sometime in late July on the 18th, 2021, when my computer systems alerted me that my cellular device, my mobile phone, and other electronic devices had been hacked and compromised by the hackers. I have evidence and other witness accounts to prove my claim. So calling me a paranoid schizophrenic isn't going to fly. Stop lying. Stop gaslighting. Because there's evidence. There's a whole entire paper trail. I was informed at that time that my electronic device was being used to monitor, track, and 24/7 remote satellite surveil. When contacting the phone company, I was told that I was the victim of a phishing spelled with a PH cyber attack. So this is 5G warfare. Approximately 2 weeks later or so, on August 1st, 2021, Jennifer Ofiza, Jerron's baby cousin, was murdered in a hit-and-run car accident. It is my understanding that this car accident was an act of terror and is by no means an accident. Non-consensual live human subject experimentation and testing in various areas of, quote, non-lethal and, quote, human bioeffects, weapons testing, and brain science. These types of experiments are being conducted illegally currently in the U.S. by private and academic contractors with the Department of Defense and CIA in connection with recent escalations in the extreme NSA surveillance and COINTELPRO-like programs, repressing activists and corporate whistleblowers, and those matching their description. Gang stalking. When trafficking women and children worldwide, the FBI may be using a unique code name and nomenclature for the gang stalking phenomenon in its records. In addition, the gang stalking phenomenon appears in the records of both the FBI and the NSA in their records pertaining to information collected by NARIS systems. NARIS is a wholly owned subsidiary of defense contractor Boeing that produces sophisticated mass surveillance computer systems currently being used by both the FBI and the NSA. So, Boeing is a front for the mob, according to this research here. Gang stalking, cult leaders, human traffickers instruct and indoctrinate their trafficked victims to think in dichotomies, stereotypes, and cliches. Gang stalking. Victims form a pathologically dependent and forced submissive relationship with a cult leader. Their forced submission, so they're being coerced, toward their trafficker, pimp, gang stalker bring many victims to lose or at least suspend their individuality, flexibility, and critical thinking. So these gang stalkers aren't thinking critically. They're not allowed to because they'll be tortured and probably murdered. Gang stalking. In both cults and psychotherapy contexts, where the therapist uses indoctrination methods, the cult leader or psychotherapist communicates both the abusive message plus messages which conceal or distort the abusive message. So, I guess the closest thing to this would be a schizophrenic word salad I think that's how you would describe this. This type of communication, this type of communication where they're saying one thing but they mean another, or they're saying something but they mean the exact opposite of what they're saying. This is a form of schizophrenic word salad. Gang stalking. Well, the reason why this is important to mention is because that's all you'll get with Biden and Harris. It's nothing but schizophrenic word salad for 5 years straight. That's why everybody is insane these days. Thank God I didn't even listen to one press conference. Get behind me, Satan. Real recognizes real, and these actors that they put, or these actresses that they put on this television is a weapon of mass destruction, in my opinion. These devices are the same. Anyways, these actresses that you see in these press conference meetings, it's not the real deal. It's just a distraction. It's just a distraction. This is what it's trying to conceal. The truth is right here. So anyways, let me try to continue. Gang stalking. Gang stalking essentially is slavery. Gang stalking essentially is human sex trafficking. Gang stalking. Guilt is probably the single most important emotional lever for producing conformity and compliance. However, most cult members or trafficked victims cannot see that guilt and fear are being used to control them. They are so hypnotized, and with the police and with the doctor, they are so trigger happy. They're also hypnotized. They are so hypnotized that they are unable to control their emotions, thoughts, and lives. Gang stalking. Many cults or human traffickers exercise complete control over interpersonal relationships. Traffickers can and do tell people to avoid certain members or spend less time with others. This misuse of behavior modification techniques, reward and punishment, fosters a feeling of dependency and helplessness, used to manipulate victims into obeying. Anything victims say can and will be used as punishment. So this is narcissistic supply. As a way to silence victims, this device has even extended to blackmail for victims advocating for freedoms, rights, speech, etc. Fear is also an extremely forceful tactic in gaining or regaining control over a trafficked victim, also known as a targeted individual. Gang stalkers use the satanic occult abusive tactic called triangulation. So they intercept to triangulate. So I'm going to go over that when I finish up the handbook, because I'm not done yet, and I promised I would finish it. And I am working on it, but I was recently injured thanks to this gang stalking and all of their influencers. So let me continue. Gang stalkers use the satanic occult abusive tactic called triangulation, this dark psychology. A method gang stalkers use to try and start a culture war in my relationship, hoping or anticipating, excuse me, y'all know I have a little accent, hoping or anticipating a form of gang retaliation. Gang stalking, the illegal and unauthorized. That means you don't have the authority. Okay? You don't have the authority because what you're doing is illegal. Gang stalking, the illegal and unauthorized abuses of advanced military-grade weapons that are being used for torture programs. Torture comprises of mind reading, mind control, central nervous system control. So when I say these TIs are compromised, this is extreme. This is straight up terrorism, what these gang stalkers are doing. Torture comprises of mind reading, mind control, central nervous system control, 24/7 anywhere tracking, organized gang stalking, voice to skull, V2K, physical injury. So that's abuse. Harassment through directed energy weapons. Total surveillance, mind reading, body mind control, dream manipulation technology using neuroweapons, remote neural monitoring module, RNM. Remote gang stalking or just gang stalking. Using this, harassers can and do view all the innermost thoughts of the targeted person on a screen as clearly as one reads a newspaper. The eyes of the target become a live camera for the trackers. Wherever the target's view is recorded, whatever the target's view is recorded on the tracker's computer or viewed by the tracker's brains using a brain-to-computer interface or a brain-to-brain interface. These satellite-based technologies result in growth by passing of fundamental human rights such as personal privacy. So when Cardi B came out with that Invasion of Privacy album, this is how they brag. So by passing of fundamental human rights such as personal privacy, health, safety, data security, family security, etc., it's my personal belief that Cardi B is a man. Prepackaged dream sequences are routinely downloaded to TI's brains, and harassers interact with the victim while they are dreaming. Stressful traumas and shocks are also induced via artificial dreams, completely wirelessly, without any chip, implants, electrodes, etc. And so these gang stalkers hide behind anonymity. I don't even know how to pronounce this word. Excuse me. And I'm not going to stress myself over it because I'm already doing the Lord's work, preaching the gospel truth here on this program. Gang stalking makes use of subtle and hidden persecutory techniques based on obsessive repetition, events frequency, and above all, victim desensitization methods, turning targets into what some might call an enemy of the state. Gang stalking is intended to segregate, creating a power gap at the expense of the persecutor because of the fact that it isolates the victim. The main goal of gang stalking is to influence the life of the victim and to condition it in order to destroy it. So the main goal of gang stalking, the main goal of this psychological operation is to influence. So they're using influencers to perform street theater so they can sabotage your day, your reputation, and your relationship and your life, so on and so forth. So the main goal of this psychological operation, that's what gang stalking is. It's slavery. It's trafficking. The main goal of gang stalking is to use influencers to influence the life of the victim. The victim is owed restitutions. And to condition it in order to destroy it. All right. Cancel culture. Targets are being repressed and censored through this and other technological and communicational means. Their deaths or incarceration in psychiatric institutions hastened through record falsifications, character assassinations, psychological stressors, in addition to the extreme damages caused by continuous low-level, non-ionizing radiation applied to the various organs in their bodies, and most importantly, minds. Cancel culture uses a technique called, quote, spear phishing, spelled with a PH, to continuously collect data from electronic devices, secrets, legal, and medical information, then leaks the private intellectual property through the mainstream media to exploit, humiliate, shame, ridicule, blackmail, extort. This is also known as electronic harassment, and more specifically, this malware is social engineering malware with a meta model mirroring all of the victims' traumas to facilitate an electronic holocaust. This is also known as electronic harassment or an electronic holocaust. Everybody with a device is a target. Cancel culture. It is important to note that these weapons are not by any means, quote, non-lethal, but rather supremely lethal, as many have subsequently lost their lives from their applications. These sorts of attacks and fatal effects, covert or not, are supposedly criminal in Washington and should be nationwide. So some of the research that I had done indicated that the way that they're able to download these artificial dreams to a target's brain is by heating up the surface layer of the brain, doing this remotely using some sort of microwave technology. So this is one of the reasons why I have epilepsy or epileptic seizures or convulsions. So this technology is the reason why. This is my belief. This technology where they're remotely able to use some sort of electromagnetic beam or some sort of invisible weapon, target the brain, heat up the surface layer of the brain to download prepackaged dream sequences and other things. So that was one example or one way that I discovered that they're able to go about using or abusing this technology or these weapons. So anyways, to continue. Now it's theoretical. There's no way to prove this. Does my neighbor have a laser and is it beaming microwaves into my head? Probably. That's my belief. Cancel culture. This targeting and harassment is local. It has come to American targeted activists, good constitutionally bound citizens, and law-abiding residents in Seattle, suburbs, and communities are currently being tortured 24/7 by naval and maritime directed energy weapons and by a related CIA psychological operations protocol, gang and organized group stalking, which translates to modern-day slavery, human trafficking, and transnational terrorism. Cancel culture. For reasons that are truth-based, my supporters and I have become targets and involuntary, uninformed, sensual live human test subjects in these horrific occult aggression, satanic ritual, slow kill torture programs. Cancel culture, this kind of electromagnetic or electronic harassment coupled or synchronized with non-consensual human experimentation sanctioned by the military has been ongoing for at least 5 years, if not more, and has been experienced by both social justice workers, usually activists and whistleblowers, and many other non-activist citizens, many of whose stories are documented online as politically victimized individuals. Cancel culture, that's their mob. Go woke, go broke. Cancel culture, the woke mob motto. This illegal covert harassment program is government illegally funded and supported. Department of Homeland Security fusion centers and citizen watch groups are involved in recruiting neighbors and coworkers to harass politically victimized individuals. Illegal funding for weapons testing, brain control, and behavior control or modification comes from the Department of Defense and possibly the National Institutes of Health and other government illegally funded operations. Cancel culture, the CIA, FBI, and NSA, with some local and state police, firefighters, emergency personnel, and other groups in this fusion, are engaged in such covert surveillance and harassment in home and other places, video and audio, foot, vehicular, and aerial, are also engaged in PSYOP activities, including organized stalking, human trafficking, and transnational terrorism. My aim here is to open and continue the investigations and advocate for subsequent legislative efforts, measures, laws, and implementation of such to protect politically victimized individuals and to help us restore our livelihoods. The other crucial aim here would be to advocate on all human rights platforms against the tortures being inflicted on those targeted, most of which subsequently are made non-consensual live human test subjects. I am working to expose and to end these covert torture programs which abrogate civil and human rights as they run completely counter to the U.S. Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Currently, it is only politically targeted activists reporting this counter-proliferation targeting program. Regarding COINTELPRO, counterintelligence program conducted by the Federal Bureau of Investigation, unsavory, harmful, and vicious tactics have been employed, including anonymous attempts to break up marriages, disrupt meetings, ostracize persons from their professions, and provoke targeted groups into rivalries that might result in deaths. Title I of the Civil Rights Act of 1968, enacted 18 U.S.C. Section 245B2, permits federal prosecution of anyone who willingly injures, intimidates, or interferes with, or attempts to injure, intimidate, or interfere with any person because of his race, because of his or her race, color, religion, or national origin, or because of the victim's attempt to engage in one of the 6 types of federally protected activities such as attending school, patronizing a public place, facility, applying for employment, acting as a juror in a state court, or voting. Persons violating this law face a fine or imprisonment of up to 1 year or both if bodily injury results or if such acts of intimidation involve the use of firearms, explosives, or fire, individuals can receive prison terms of up to 10 years, while crimes involving kidnapping, sexual assault, or murder can be punishable by life in prison or the death penalty. So these gang stalkers, they're like 25 to life. That's where they should be at in prison. U.S. District Courts provide for criminal sanctions only. The Violence Against Women Act of 1994 contained a provision at 42 U.S.C. Section 13981, which allowed victims of gender-motivated hate crimes to seek compensatory and punitive damages, injunctive and declaratory relief, and such other relief as a court may deem appropriate. The Federal Tort Claims Act is a 1946 federal statute that permits private parties to sue the United States in a federal court for most torts committed by persons acting on behalf of the United States. Crime victims' rights. A crime victim has the following rights. 1. The right to be reasonably protected from the accused. They're depriving me of these rights, by the way. That's why I'm having to go back over this, to remind everybody that they're depriving myself of these rights here. So number 1, the right to be reasonably protected from the accused. Number 2, the right to reasonable, accurate, and timely notice of any public court proceeding and any parole proceeding involving the crime or of any release or escape of the accused. Three, the right not to be excluded from any such public court proceeding unless the court, after receiving clear and convincing evidence, determines that testimony by the victim would be materially altered if the victim heard other testimony at that proceeding. 4. The right to be reasonably heard at any public proceeding in the district court involving release, plea, sentencing, or any parole proceeding. 5. The reasonable right to confer with the attorney for the government in the case. 6. The right to full and timely restitution as provided in law. 7. The right to proceedings free from unreasonable delay. 8. The right to be treated with fairness and with respect for the victim's dignity and privacy. 9. The right to be informed in a timely manner of any plea bargain or deferred prosecution agreement. 10. The right to be informed of the rights under this section and the services described in Section 503C of the Victims' Rights and Restitution Act of 1990. 42 U.S.C. 10607C, and provided contact information for the Office of the Victims' Rights of the Department of Justice. The Civil Rights Act of 1871, 42 U.S.C., Section 1983, known as Section 1983, authorized monetary, and injunctive relief against anyone who, acting under the authority of state law, deprived a person of their constitutional rights. Section 1983 is the most prominent and commonly litigated civil rights statute. 42 U.S. Code Section 1985, conspiracy to interfere with civil rights. Conspiracy to interfere with civil rights. 1. Preventing officer from performing duties. 2. Obstructing justice, intimidating party, witness, or juror. 3. Depriving persons of rights or privileges. If 2 or more persons in any state or territory conspire or go in disguise on the highway or on the premises of another for the purpose of depriving, either directly or indirectly, any person or class of persons of the equal protection of the laws. Or of equal privileges and immunities under the laws, or for the purpose of preventing or hindering the constituted authorities of any state or territory from giving or securing to all persons within such state or territory the equal protection of the laws. The parties so injured or deprived may have an action for the recovery of damages occasioned by such injury or deprivation against any one or more of the conspirators. And so Jerron still hasn't even reported my vehicle stolen, which is another reason why I have my firm belief that he's a double agent, and he definitely is working covertly and clandestinely with this opposition, NATO, with this FBI and what have you. But like I was saying earlier, there isn't going to be very many people who can deny that crimes have occurred. When the doctor knows, when the family knows, when the community knows, when the police have been informed, as well as the FBI. So nothing that I say and nothing that I do is illegal. It is all in self-defense. And so this is the secret silent war that is going on that you will see. They like to use third world countries as meta models, when in actuality this is happening in our communities, in America, in our country. They can't say that though, because they're guilty for crimes against humanity. They don't want to go to prison. They don't want to lose all of their luxuries. So all of that material shit that they need, that they use to overcompensate with, like the whores, the cars, they're not going to take none of that with them. When they finally get arrested, when they finally do get locked up, they're not taking any of that with them, okay? When they finally do die, I don't sit here and waste any time thinking about the death of my enemies, because one thing I know for absolute certain, it is that I'm not going to waste any time thinking about the death of you, because number one, I'm a Christian and I pray for you. And number two, I already know that I serve a mighty God that has an expiration date. Every single one of these lives that think that they matter more than mine, you do not matter more than mine. We're equal in the sense that you, as well as I, we both have an expiration date. So I ain't going to sit over here and waste any time entertaining the idea of how you're going to get it or how you're going out, because I serve a mighty God. He's already figured it out. He's already got it covered. My suffering will come to an end, as will yours. The only difference is I spoke truth my entire life and was ostracized for it, tortured and punished for reporting on true organized hate crimes against humanity. You're a coward that hides in the car, in the home, behind political figures, and so on and so forth, behind the police, behind the doctor. You're a criminally insane coward who hides. All of these warmongers, all of these fearmongers, all of this war-fueled propaganda, they need to be locked up for their crimes against humanity. It's been so long that they've been getting away with this, and it is truly my honor to expose this hidden enemy, to expose these hidden enemies. This Luciferian brotherhood, their satanic agenda, and all of their loose criminality that continues to take place all day, every day, non-stop. These counterproliferation targeting programs are intended to cause the victim of it to suffer and then die. So, my concern here is trying to get my restitutions before their program takes full effect. So the idea with these counterproliferation, depopulation agendas and programs is to harass, sexually exploit, and to blackmail, terrorize, and intimidate the victim so they can stage a synthetic suicide programming. This is done using dark psychology, psychological operations, the military working in tandem with the medical system and the Department of Defense. So that would be the Department of Justice, that is the police. And then these devices are synchronized with all of this street theater, this neuro-linguistic programming, this trauma-based mind control. The meta model will perform social engineering attacks on the device, and that facilitates a cyber Pearl Harbor or an electronic targeting holocaust. Every single person in the community is complicit in conspiracy, trafficking, murder, extortion, amongst many, many, many other crimes. So the idea is to use the trauma-based mind control so that the victim will forget and have to relive the trauma indefinitely until they die. So it's trying to keep myself in a traumatic cycle, inciting domestic violence, depriving and isolating me, depriving me of my constitutional rights, violating my constitutional rights. And then when I report it to the police, I'm punished and tortured. When I use my critical thinking and go to the doctor to have them address my injuries, same situation. So within these psyops, there will be no justice for these trafficked women and children. There will be no peace. That is war. Okay? I am a war hero because they cannot figure out how to get rid of me. And every single action they have taken has backfired. In the mighty name of God. That's my God. Thank you, Jesus. Hallelujah. Praise the Lord for another amazing show. I hope you all enjoyed today's episode. Thanks for your time. And for those of you who have donated, thanks for your money. Hey, if you are new here to this channel, the opposition is currently trying to run a holocaust. A psychological gas chamber, an electronic gas chamber. This is how we fight back. This is how I fight my battles back, okay? After they've deprived me of everything that I love, ruined and sabotaged every single good thing that I have, robbed me, raped me, tortured me, and have done unspeakable things towards me. All I have done is sat here, praise and worship God, thanking the Lord for the safety, for the security, for the authority, and also thanking Him for death. Because eventually, all of this suffering will end indefinitely. Not just for me, but for these miserable assholes, community-based assholes, these undercover agents. Misery loves company. Have you ever noticed how they always have to surround themselves with like-minded individuals that will not question them, that will not doubt them, that support the criminality? They are not strong enough to be independent thinkers. They're not smart enough either.